he had given me the news from my least favorite position. On my back, my legs raised above my hips, a stranger between my thighs. It's like finding a possum under your bed or termites in your grits. What are you doing here? You frighten me. You disgust me. Who let you in? This parasite that sucks ability from the walls of the womb, that eats at the functionality of the lady place. It is the black woman's plague, and it has made me sick. No antibiotic will heal me. There is no over-the-counter cure. Their best medicine is to make a jack-o'-lantern of my abdomen. Into my belly they want to carve a smile. They say, this is the only way you may be able to be a mother. She says this is the way that kept me from being a mother. They corner me with ultimatums. And neither looks like freedom, or diapers, or onesies, or mini me's. I close my eyes. I breathe deeply and become the specimen for their tables. They take my blood. They pump me with iron. I prepare to let them cut away. My mind works in a way that I understand that the Bible is true and complete and good and profitable for all the things. And so there has been a resistance in me since I was a little girl, before I really understood God to be Father and holy and just and merciful and loving and compassionate, before I really got into the attributes of God that would support his tenderness. I never had a problem with understanding him as just or as judge. And I would berate myself if I fell short. If goodness was not gifted to me, then I would make myself the problem, because I could fathom that God is good. There wasn't a lot of context for suffering, but God is good. And if I am not experiencing goodness, it's because I'm not good. That's how I used to think. And when you get down into sexual trauma, that's an untrue and a dangerous theology to hold. That I experienced the traumas that I experienced some way because I fell out of grace with God. And don't people say that, oh, by the grace of God, that could have been me. That should have been me. And it ain't wrong, like it ain't untrue. God's grace, it covers, protects, but we have to be careful with how we say things, especially whenever there are people around us who know that God is good and who want to be good with him, and yet they cannot figure out how to hold their suffering and makes them feel forgotten, abandoned. I wasn't afraid that I couldn't have children because I had conceived and lost children, or because I had had any medical suggestions that would say there would be complications for me in childbirth or in conception. I didn't know whether I was being punished for having engaged in sexual sin. I thought a lot about the church folk when I wrote these chapters, and thought about how the sex talks that we have don't have enough layers. Sex ed in the church can't start with save till marriage and end with the consequences of sexual sin. There has to be more information given. Somebody should inform us about coercion. Somebody should inform us about sexual assault and date rape. And somebody should tell us that God feels with the victim, that God grieves with the victim. Somebody should tell us that loving God all of our lives and giving him our best in the best way we knew how would not stop assault from taking place. And somebody should tell us that if it was to happen, that it didn't mean that God didn't love us anymore, that it didn't mean that God was mad at us. Somebody should talk about suffering and sin and the reality of sin and the layers to sin in relation to sex and sexuality. Somebody should say that you're redeemable, that you're not cursed, that you're not dirty, that you're still accepted even when you fall, even when someone forces you to fall. Do you know what your biggest fears are? The ones that you don't want to admit, not to other people and definitely not to yourself. And because of that, you would never consider admitting them to God. The kind of fears that if you were to let them out, they're so intimidating that they would consume you, swallow you whole. Them fears. I had 3. It was 2020. I was doing the Dangerous Prayers Bible series. Within the Bible study, I was asked to confess my fears, knowing that where I have fear is where I trust God the least. But I felt some type of way because the insinuation was that if I had those kinds of fears, that I had trust issues with God. And immediately I'm like, not me. I can't have trust issues with God. So, trembling, I admitted my 3 things. And within a month, it was right there on my doorstep. Something that I kept in hidden places for years. As long as I was doubtful of God in such a way that I would not, even if it wasn't intentional, not bringing it to Him is like a passive way of saying, I don't think you can handle this. Not bringing it to Him kept me from dealing with a thing that kept me in a spiritual bondage, that kept me from being as close to my Father as I could have been in that season. The unleashed definition of healing is confronting the truth and enduring its grief in order that we may be whole. Confession began a purging, a pruning, a healing process that will lead me to wholeness. What do you need to confess?